Good afternoon. Do we have cameras? Yes. Do we have mics? Yes. Do we have chill hangout vibe music? Yes. Is my mic kind of in a weird angle? Yes. Is my cat blurred over there, but also actively making a five-course meal of her own ass? Yes. You can't see. You can't see because the blur. But trust me on this, it's happening, folks. It's happening. Welcome in. Happy Friday afternoon. I'm me. I'm Dan. Hi. Jesus Christ, I'm not going to introduce myself in my own stream if you don't know who I am. I apologize for you finding me. Um, I, I'm just here. Listen, folks, hi, welcome in, by the way. And hey, Struggle Bus, thank you for shouting out Fandible, the biggest, greatest little actual play podcast that nobody's ever heard of. But yes, starting off strong with my cat licking herself on the bed and calling out the podcast. I believe a new episode should be out at some point today if it's not out already. I claim no responsibility for that because I do not do the audio editing at all on our streams, on our podcast episodes. That's down to Dave and Jesus, both of whom have day jobs. Um, I, as an just unemployed drain on society, do not. So I could, in theory, take over the editing of our podcast episodes, but I choose not to because I hate editing audio. I don't mind editing video, weirdly enough. It's audio that I hate editing. I cannot. My ADHD rebels against it in ways heretofore unknown and misunderstood. I just can't. I've tried. If it's editing audio only, I just, my brain cannot. It's like there's nothing to grab onto. I can't do it. It's so weird. And yes, a lot of the audio editing happens in the back of Ubers and taxi cabs. There's I think especially Dave. Dave does a lot of his editing on his way back home after work, like at 3 in the morning or whatever time it is he gets out. He works a night shift, and he's got like an app on his phone. So yeah, that's where it happens a lot. And hey, welcome in, Phoenix. Welcome in, buddy. I see my cat approaching. Hi, sweetheart. Do you want to join? Do you want to say hi to the boys out here? Come on. Say hi. Say hi. You need to get close, otherwise the camera blurs you, baby girl. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. Who's a good girl? Yes, she is. Now you're gonna get picked up. Here we go. There we go. Well, welcome everybody to the Friday stream. It is a chill hangout time with a cat who has zero chill. Okay, zero chill. Sweetheart, get your leg down. Thank you. Would you like? You can't sit down like this. I'm gonna have to get close to the. She's just laying down. You can see her tail. She's just laying down. Anyway, today's fit provided by the little dog from Kagi.com, which is the search engine that I use because Google has completely shit the bed over the past couple of years, really. And then they added. I mean, it wasn't great before, and then they added the AI bullshit, and now it's just absolutely unusable, unfuckable. So yes, am I, as an unemployed man, literally paying for my search engine? Yes, because it's worth every penny. I'm literally repping the shirt, and they're not paying me for this. I'm paying them for this, and I highly recommend it if you can, within your budget and in your own mind, justify it. Highly recommend Kagi.com. It's like $5 a month, and it's honestly it's one of the best. Like I will cut off other services before I stop paying for Kagi, because Google search is unfucking usable. And a company that I pay them for the search, they have zero ads because they work for me. Google, you're the product, right? The classic, like if you're not paying for it, then the product is you, right? So anyway, I'm not I'm not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not going to spend any more time repping them. I'm just going to go ahead and catch up on chat real quick. Friday, you have 2.5 hours of work left, no meetings. Hell yeah, currently vibing. Hopefully it's going well for you. Yes, exactly. Hopefully it's going well for you as well, Phoenix. For me, it's fine. We are just chilling. As you can tell, the cat is on my lap. You can't see her, but she is vibing as well. Thank you for the follow, Brett. Let's see, Brett Nesty. Welcome in, friend. We just started, and I'm about to pop into my game. So what am I doing here? I'm working on my own tabletop RPG. This is in real early phases. For those of you who have been on the streams before, you've heard this all. For anybody who's brand new, hanging out or lurking on the stream, this is my game that is still in very early stages. Go ahead and switch over. There we go. It's called Seeker's Call. It is a game wholly original, but it does touch a couple of other systems that it uses as both inspiration and to work off of. So today, I think the main thing that we're going to be working on is the combat system, which honestly has been just one of my bugaboos, one of my sticking points with this game for a while. Mostly because of the history, right? So this game, in fact, wait, can I bring up, it might be worth it. It might be worth to take a moment as we're starting the stream and see where this game came from, actually. Let me bring up, bear with me just a moment, folks. I'm just grabbing a copy of my game. Let me see, is it in PDFs? I think so. Boop, 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 boop. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. PDFs. And then we go down to Uncivilized Games, right? Yeah. And there we go, the games. If I go down to Hometown Magic, here we go. So this, let me just go ahead and open it. That is a character sheet. There we go. That's Hometown Magic. And let's just kind of get this. Where's my app? Where is my app? App capture. There we go. Point you at the PDF. Cool. And then let's kind of expand that out a little so that it actually, we can actually view it. So if I go like this, it's a little bit too much there, and then we go like that. There we go. Close enough, good enough, right? So I mean, the logo is taking up the whole game. Let's see, Friday's the first day of your weekend. Oh hell yeah! So you've got the day off, Phoenix. Nice. Let's see here. So Hometown Magic. This is the original game. A game about the magic of connections. Now all the art here in this game is basically free use pictures from different services, all of which either didn't require attribution or were royalty free, and then I kind of ran them through some filters, so they look kind of hand drawn. That's it. I have zero talent, artistic talent in terms of art and drawing and design, and B, zero budget, unfortunately, to hire an artist. As much as I would like, oh god, if I just had like nothing but money, I would just be commissioned. Like, that's what I don't get about like the rich people in the real world out here. Like, why have all that money if you're not going to spend it on just throwing it at every goddamn artist you see? Like, if I had millions of dollars, I would be like, oh, you want $25 for a portrait? Jesus Christ, have 50. No, don't make two, just the one. Just take here, have 100, and you just just give me the one. Like, I would throw so much money at artists if I could. I can't. It's annoying. So you know, it's all good thoughts and vibes, but unfortunately, the real world is what it is, right? But yeah, it's a full agreement. Thank you. Like, it's just very much like I don't get what is your purpose? Why have all this if not to, you know, if you yourself don't have the talent to create art or the gift or the patience or whatever, which I get because here I am. Look, you see the color of this beard. I'm not a young man. Have I had opportunities to learn to draw? Do I have the time even right now to practice? And yes. Like, I understand. And a lot of people have told me that, you know, while there is definitely talent, it's not to minimize the talent that many of these artists have, but at a base level, just about anyone can learn basic art, you know, art and drawing and stuff, and design and everything else. But at the same time, yeah, you can say that about most things, but that doesn't mean everybody is suited for it. And from what I've done in my attempts to learn art in the past, Yeah, look, hey, I know that guy. Um, from my attempts to do art and learn art in the past, there is a sort of kind of like a mental switch that has to be toggled. Like you kind of have to learn to perceive the world as sort of like lines and aspects and everything. And I haven't quite mastered that. To me, it's still like a 3D object. I don't like there's a moment there's a moment when I'm watching art be made, when I watch other artists, not other artists period, because I don't consider myself one of them. When I've watched artists draw or paint or create anything like visual, it just seems like they're just doing random things, and then suddenly there's this magical moment in which it becomes a thing. And the translation of the final work to the steps that came before, there's like this disconnect. There's like a moment, a magic step that I'm missing. And I know it's not real. I know it's not real. It's just like, again, it's practice and doing the thing and perception and the way you think and blah blah blah. Yes, but for my purposes, it's just like line, dot, dot, dash, 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 magic, art. That is the process. Welcome in, license. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's catch up on chat again. I remember drawing with my younger sister as a child and seeing that she automatically drew perspective and realizing, okay, we are different. Exactly. Some people have that perception. They have that talent. They see the world as an artist does, and I am filled with endless envy. And if I had the money, what I would do is I would just throw it at the people who can make art, because Jesus Christ, please make more art. Make art for me, please. Here. I can't do it. I would if I can't. Arbalest, welcome in, friend. Welcome in. Thank you as always for hanging out. If I could license any game mechanic, which would I use? Music, visual art, all have their savants. Yeah, exactly. There are savants, but also, again, even just at a base level, some people just kind of have that artistic perception, that artistic vision, and some people don't. And I most definitely so far have fallen into the don't camp. That said, I haven't completely given up on the concept of maybe one day learning some level of art, but I don't know. I don't know. I haven't given up, but I'm not about to try again right now either. But yeah, to answer your question, if I could license any game mechanic, which would I use? There was one. We actually, the podcast, and this is kind of like some inside baseball, because it never happened and it never will, unfortunately. But there was a moment in the past when Fandible, when my podcast, which again, for anybody who's been lurking late or is unaware, there it is. But wait, did that work? No, I don't think that worked. Did my chat box? Okay, there we go. Okay, that did work. I just had to hit it properly. I guess I didn't click it. Anyway, that's my podcast, in case anybody on the chat is unfamiliar. We were given an opportunity which we never took, and then it kind of just disappeared. And to be fair, we didn't really have the money to do it at the time, but we were once had an opportunity to buy effectively the license to Unhallowed Metropolis, which is a game that we played years and years ago on the podcasts. It's not a new game. It's been around for a while. I don't think it ever really had a second edition. But yeah, there was a time when we could have owned Unhallowed Metropolis. That offer is definitely no longer on the table. I'm not even sure 100% if it ever really was. It was just kind of like floated and some talks were had, but I kind of wish we had done that. I kind of wish we had, because we played it and we had ideas for a lot of ideas on how to make this. It's been so many years that don't expect me to talk about them, because I don't remember the improvements that we wanted. But that I mean, the system could use improvements. But we loved the setting so much, especially Jesus. Jesus like basically Jesus and Billy, like basically they created entire like bestiaries for like the other countries or whatnot in that game that weren't covered in the book. Like we loved the setting, so it would have been fun. Never happened. But to actually answer the question, yeah, dice rolling, of course, as a core. I mean, here's the weird thing about mechanics, actually. Um, and the thing about game mechanics is that you really cannot copyright mechanics. You can copyright and protect your setting, the fiction. You can protect your terminology, so what you actually call like the creatures in your world. All the fluff basically is it's all copyrightable. Um, but the game system, and you copyright the actual wording that you use to describe your game system within your world, but you cannot copyright the concept of. So if I came up with a game system it's called the 5d6 system, and it's an entire game system, and for every roll you're rolling 5d6, and the mechanic is that you only care about matches. So basically every every match that happens within those 5d6 counts as a success. That's the mechanic. I don't know if that's a good mechanic or not, probably not, but that's the mechanic I've come up with. It's fairly unique, although now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I've seen games that use that mechanic or something simplified, right? But that's the mechanic, and I describe it, and I describe what it's called and all that in my game, and I put it out there. Somebody can't simply copy and paste that unless I licensed it, Creative Commons. But somebody could go like, oh yeah, 5d6 and match the things and and count the pairs. I like that idea. And they can just use it. There's nothing I would be able to do about that. So there's no licensing game mechanics per se, really, in terms of tabletop RPGs. Exactly. There's a talk last year at Gen Con regarding copyright, trademark, patents, and RPG. Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting situation. It is an interesting situation what is actually copyrightable or not, which has led to, of course, that's kind of what like SRDs, system reference documents, are, because they basically now set aside and make it a little bit clearer. Like, it's not just the system, but also like these terms, the word orc, for example, or whatever. Like look at the SRD for Dungeons and Dragons. It's the bulk of the rules, just all the basic things that you would need to play the game, and those are 100% free. Because it's basically like a one step forward. Like providing an SRD is kind of like one step forward beyond just providing mechanics, but also like, all right, here's like, it's like a fleshed out skeleton, and you use this as you need, and we are just actively allowing this. But at the end of the day, there is no licensing mechanics. That said, which mechanic would I steal or copy? Great artist, good artist copy, great artist steal, right? Which mechanics have I liked a lot in the past? I vaguely remember, but I don't remember the specifics. I used to remember having a lot of fun with that game at a con, Feng Shui. I remember having a really good blast with Feng Shui, and I think Feng Shui was one of the first games that I used like the concept of like clocks or timers. I think I remember. What I remember liking a lot about Feng Shui was the way that combat happened, in which there was this rolling combat counter, and you were like, the different moves you made constantly like moved you back and forth within that sort of combat counter order, so you could get really creative with basically doing things that would position you before or after somebody in combat, or would move somebody else's turn. I remember there being a lot of that, and while it doesn't sound like as much fun, at the table it was a blast, because it was like this back and forth. Everybody was just doing Feng Shui is very much about like wuxia action, high action and stuff. So everything that we were doing was over the top action and magical and all that stuff. And I remember it being a really big blast. And that's kind of like my ideal systems allow you to be awesome. It's basically what it boils down to. I kind of actually had this conversation yesterday because I actually went before. Was it before? Yeah, it was just before I did yesterday's stream in the morning. And also, by the way, I kind of ignored a question at the beginning. Strogobus, yes, my evening stream last night went great. We played Rogue Trader for a couple hours. I made a character. I made Ronaldo, not Macarius, Ronaldo von Valancius. He is an asshole noble, and we just started. I started in. I got into a couple of fights, and we're very early into the game. Will I continue it tonight? Maybe. We'll see. But we're definitely going to continue the game. There will be night streams for it. But yeah, Feng Shui is Hong Kong action movie, tabletop RPG, and it's a great time. It is. It is. Um, so yeah, I really liked Feng Shui. But again, it's been years. I played it. What was it at? It was Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. Which con was that? God damn it, we even sponsored that con for a while. A Catacon. A Catacon. I played it. I got to play it at a Catacon, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Chat past pause scroll. No, there we go. All right. So anyway, let's before I go into the ads, we've got like 10 minutes before I had time. No, less than 10. So Home to Magic is the game that Seeker's Call is based off of, right? And it's meant to basically be 2 or more players. You're recommended to the corporation mechanics. Did I even insert the corporation mechanics? This game is so badly made. It's one of the first ones that I made. Anyway, you'll need 1 6-sided dice. 4 6-sided dice for players recommended. You also need copies of the character sheet, which is hereby granted on page 39 for running. Make set aside 2 to 4 hours of time to play. Blah. Each player plays a young child, 7 to 13 years old, who has just discovered their initial spark of magic and the way that power flows from their connection to the world around them and the people in their community. I'm showing you this so you can see where some of the concepts of Seeker's Call came from, like the stuff like the connection and whatnot. Light Gaming 6, thank you for the follow. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. So here we go. Let's see. You can scan up a character. She's a character creation. So you'll see some similarities to the character creation in Seeker's Call. Like you have your resonances, your aptitudes, and your discord. So a lot of those concepts came through, and they are very similar. Although again, we're using a very different system in this game, this older game. But the resonances are, the stuff that you are resonant with, the familia of magic that you exist with. Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you for holding that message, Smart Chat. Deny that one. That is some spam trying to come in. Appreciate the attempted spamming, but thankfully these tools have improved since the last time I used to do streaming a couple years ago. That's nice. Yeah, y'all didn't notice. I don't even need to call it out. Y'all didn't notice. I should just remember that. I just get excited. I get excited. I'm growing big enough to attract scammers. Oh boy. Anyway, the resonances, right? And look, this is a mistake I kept making, and even I've removed a lot of references to wizards from the newest version. And if I ever rewrite this one, I'm going to remove checks a box office streamers. Yeah, that's it's a path to growth, right? But anyway, I kept talking about the wizards and how magic in the greater world works and whatnot. It's like, look, can I play a wizard in this game? Of course not. The whole point is that you're not a wizard. So why does this need to be in here, right? This is me criticizing myself. All of this was kind of unnecessary. I could have, and I think I do in Seeker's Call, provide a better explanation that doesn't necessarily need to refer to, because that's the thing, like, I'm trying to create a rule that magic does this, but then immediately referring to the wizards, who are by definition in my system, in my game, the exceptions to the rule of how magic works. So it's like, don't define your rule by its exceptions necessarily, right? Like, again, especially if it's not going to be in the game. There are no wizards in this game, so why the hell am I bringing them up, right? That's me yelling at myself in this case. But the point is, at the end of the day, when you take an action that fits your resonance adjective, you'll get a bonus to your roll. That's how that system works. Again, all the pictures in this game, like these are obviously sneakers. Like I wanted to make a game that was more medieval, but look, I'm not an artist. We just had a conversation about this. These were free use pictures that I then ran a filter over. Anyway, Corpora, that's very readable. Well done, Dan. I love your design skills. The corpora familia of words comprises those aspects of the reality that deal with the physical, yada, yada, yada. You've seen a lot of this before. These are the resonances, these are the examples. Very similar to what I have in Seeker's Call. The Mente, I actually do like this, how that one came out. The Mente resonance and abilities. Neoma, I also like how that one came out. The Neoma abilities. This is readable, Dan. This is, I mean, still the font is hell, but at least it's right there. But that's a little bit more readable than, I mean, this was also, but what happened? What happened here? You could have added some, Dan, unless you're about to open this file again in, not Adobe, fuck Adobe, in, published, well, it's publisher, but it's not Adobe publisher. It's, God damn it, what's the, Affinity, sorry, yes. If you're gonna open this in Affinity publisher, then do that. Otherwise, Dan, stop yelling at yourself. You're not doing any good. Here we go. So the pneuma things, blah, blah, blah. Then the aptitudes, again, very similar to what we have in the new one, except this one doesn't have that whole story mechanic because it didn't really have like advancement. This game wasn't really meant for long-term play. So there is not that, but a lot of basic concepts. You have some aptitudes. In this case, they were meant to be single adjectives that then you can use to give yourself bonuses. And discords are again also single adjectives that give you minuses, etc., etc. And so character creation was choosing some aptitudes, choosing a resonance, choosing some aptitudes, choosing one or more discords, and then choosing your gift. And there's your guidelines for the gift. So the gift is again that little very light, simple, small, but mildly useful power, born of your resonance with words of magic, yada yada yada. Because in this game, again, you're playing kids. I'm not going to give you Fireball. Although this guy apparently appears to be about to cast Fireball, but I'm not going to give you the ability to cast Fireball. You have a very small gift, a very simple gift of magic, etc., etc. Gifts should never cost more problems than they're worth or come with too many unpleasant downsides. They're not intended to be monkey's paws or gotcha or uncontrolled powers. For example, a person with the gift of breathing underwater will not lose their ability to breathe on land or necessarily grow unsightly gills. Someone whose gift allows them to increase their size will never be crushed or harmed by trying to do so in a space that doesn't allow for growth. Either they will burst unharmed out of their enclosure, or the gift will simply not work until there is enough space for them to use it safely. The point being, again, to make sure that, like, hey, the magic in this world is gentle, etc., etc., etc. So this is one of those things that I don't know. Like, it is a Chekhov's thing. Like, basically, like the ungifted, right? Like, it sounds ominous, and my point was that ungifted don't really exist. They're a myth. Everybody is born with a gift. There's no such thing as an ungifted. Well, then why do I have them? And why do I specifically say that you cannot play one in this game? There is that part because there's always somebody who's going to show up and go like, but what if I don't want to have powers, right? And then you're like, well, that's not the game. Like, it's like playing a superhero game and insisting on playing a mortal with no combat, no heroing skills. You're just a dude. Not saying you can't do that, but it's kind of against the spirit of the game, right? And in this game, you are playing a child discovering their magical gift for the first time. No, you don't get to play a child without a gift. That's counter to the entire concept of the game. Let's see, why go that route? Play the power that eats other people's powers. Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. Do something, but don't just go completely powerless, right? But I mean, I get it. Some people want it. And in this case, I didn't want to deal with that, so I had this here. But my thought is, well, are the ungifted a thing in my world at all, period? I haven't really addressed that in Seeker's Call. And there's no calling for the ungifted. But that may be an option. That may be something to think about. If the ungifted do exist, right? If the people who were born without a gift or who never opened their... Because, again, there are the wizards. Wizards made a choice. Wizards sacrificed their gift in exchange for gaining access to magic as a whole rather than just their gift. That's different. This is people who do not have a never discovered, never had one. Do not have that connection. Do we want to have that as an option? And if so, what is their calling? Do they get their own special calling? Or are they able to choose any? Let's give that a little bit of thought. In fact, I think this is a good time to kind of pause because the clock says that ads are coming in about a minute anyway. So let's give a quick pause. Let's give a quick think. We'll come back. We'll keep talking about the game. We actually will do some actual design on my game. Today we're working on combat. I'm excited to work on combat. We are getting to it. But until then... All right, we are back, folks. My cat is still on my lap. You still can't see her. I mean, she's not thrilled about the fact that I keep talking and kind of moving. She would much rather I either just stayed still or at the very least sort of leaned back a little to give her more of a surface. In fact, she's offended. She's become offended and she's leaving. Yep, that's it. That's it. I had the gall to acknowledge her existence, and so my cat has abandoned me. That is how this works. That is how my relationship with my cat goes. Welcome back, folks. All right. Anyway, let's keep looking here real quick, because I want to get to my own game. Um, but okay, so there was this whole thing about connections in the game that I wanted to keep for Seeker's Call, and then I completely got rid of because it turns out not actually fun. Like the concept that I had, the idea was to that your that magic. Okay, let's take a step back. I wanted magic in this world to be very gentle, to not be able to be used to harm other people. And in fact, gifts, I want gifts, capital G gifts. Like, not the powers the Seekers have, those are called Numina, it's a separate thing. But the gifts that people are born with, I still want to kind of keep that restriction that you can't really hurt other people with a gift. Like, if you have a gift that lets you like bring up little, cast little balls of fire to illuminate or warm or whatever, you might be able to set wood on fire and maybe burn somebody's house down. Not great, right? But if you just try and like burn somebody, like to burn you, like the fire would go off, like the magic would immediately fade and become harmless, because due to its nature, the magic of this world is a peaceful, gentle magic, and there is a it's not a mindless force. It's basically what I'm trying to say. It's not some kind of like pure neutral energy that anyone can just grab and use. Um, it is opinionated. It specifically wants to be nice and gentle and welcoming and nurturing to these people. So it actively rebels against being used to harm others, right? That's still the concept, and I want to maintain that concept going forward. But seekers are not children, right? We're playing, part of the reason also that I wanted to avoid a lot of violence and the ability in this game, in Seeker's Call, you are playing children. You're playing 7 to 13-year-olds. Like I didn't want to have a game where, like 7 to 13-year-olds are getting like injured and beat up and getting into like life and death fights. Let's see, can it revoke itself? I shut itself off from those who cause harm with it? Yes. So that's kind of the idea, right? Like it's going to prevent itself from being used directly for harm. But also, like, I don't want to get into that competition with players. It's not meant to. And in fact, you know what? Here, I'll let me see. Do I mention this in the book? Okay, here we go. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and read this. Actually, so gift guidelines. Let's read the whole thing. Again, I think it's important to get this concept so we see how it's kind of like infected, for lack of a better term, Seeker's Call, and how we want to approach that, right? Because I'm not taking everything that's in this game as just absolute untouchable canon. This game needs a rewrite. It's not a good game. I'm only mild. The thing I'm proud of about this game is that I finished it, which is more than I can say for most of my personal pet projects. But I don't think it's a good game. Do not mistake me showing it as showing off. This is more like presenting evidence of a crime. So gifts. Now it's time to choose your character's gift. Simple, small, but mildly useful power born of your resonance with the words of magic. The familiar your character resonates with will determine the general type of gift you can have, but each character's gift is unique to them, and you are encouraged to work with your storyteller and your fellow players to come up with a gift that best matches your idea of the character. See each familiar's description in the resonance section for sample gifts. Note, we will detail how to use gifts within the game in the next section. For now, simply come up with your desired gift, make sure it matches your character's resonance, and follow the guidelines below. Gift guidelines. As their name implies, gifts are meant to be something that's generally useful and welcome, pleasant and comforting. While no one really knows where exactly gifts come from or why different people get different gifts, certain seemingly universal rules apply to them. Fine. And so this is one of the things that had to go away, because this, I know what I was trying to do here. I had good intentions, but it in practice, and maybe in this game it's not so bad, because again, in this game you are playing small kids, you are in a village, you are learning to use your gifts. The whole point is to try and establish you to create connections with other people in the village, with your friends, with the villagers, the people around. And so the thing was that gifts only work on things, places, and people that you have a connection with. This word connection is a separate section. This connection means that most gifts only become useful when used on or for the people, places, and things that your character truly cares about, right? So that the intention was there, right? That in order for your personal magic to affect others, you have to have a connection. And that connection, the system for this is literally called, you have to spend care. You gain care points, basically, and you spend them to establish connections between your character and the source of the person, place, or thing that they care about. And once that connection is established, at that point you would be able to use your gift to affect that person, place, or thing. Is the idea. Again, for this game about children learning to use their magic, not the worst mechanic. But later on, as we expand more, it really made it so that magic became very useful, especially for people, for like, in the idea of like a more classic sort of adventuring party thing, where you're going out and you're exploring, you're visiting new places, and all of a sudden your magic is basically useless until you've already been there for a while and established a connection and invested care into it, right? Well, that's kind of cool idea for maybe like a novel, like a world in a novel and everything, but for a game, well, it's not the worst thing ever, I think. But making it so that characters' powers, I mean, it could be interesting. Folks, let me know, like, hear me out. The idea of a game in which every time, basically with each session, your characters effectively are just normal people, and it takes them a while to be able to establish themselves enough within whatever's going on, within whatever story is going on, chaos is going on, in the world that they're at, that then they are now able to use their powers. In fact, I think there's probably like games that have something similar to that. But it is a thing. It is a thing, right? It is a concept. And it's mostly fine, but it felt like it would slow the game down too much for Seeker's Call, where I wanted it to be a little bit more action. I wanted Seekers to be able to just hop onto a situation and be able to at least use their magic, to defend themselves and to explore and all that stuff, right? Let's see, let me catch up on chat real quick. Like, if I can control Earth, I can't shoot someone with rocks, but if I trap them and animals attack them, then that could happen. Not just the theme, but the idea. But yeah, it's kind of like that, exactly. Like, you can use your magic, you can use your gifts to set up things that can indirectly cause harm, right? But you can't use them to cause direct harm. In theory, I wanted it to be full on, like, the intention matters. But then part of that is like, yeah, as a game, like, again, if I was writing a novel, sure, because that's me. I'm controlling all the characters. I know what their motivations are, and I can play around with that in the story, and their intentions behind the power. But with players, look, I have to approach even my own games with the assumption that I'm going to be around a table, possibly at a con, people I've never met before. There's always going to be an asshole, right? And I don't want to have to get into the argument at the table of like, but my character would have thought that that applying burning flames to his sister's face was just to warm her. He didn't have a bad intention, so he would have burnt her face. And it's like, you, the player, want your character to burn his sister's face. That's what's happening here. No, but also I just don't want to have to get into that argument, you know. So I kind of just simplified it to no direct damage, which is something in the nature of magic itself within this world detests being used for violence or harm. No gift has ever been discovered that can cause direct harm by itself to another living being. No fireballs, no lightning bolts, no death spells or curses. Now, human beings what they are, that does not prevent them from finding inventive ways to use their gifts in harmful ways, but even such workarounds seem to be accounted for. Flames created by a gift will snuff out before burning someone. Gift-created water will evaporate before entering another's lungs. Objects launched through the air with a gift somehow manage to always miss their target if it's alive. This is not intended as a challenge. I had to italicize this. This is not intended as a challenge for the players or storyteller. It's in the spirit of the world and the game, and part of the nature of magic within it. No gifts that cause direct harm. You know, and I feel like this might be coming off a little scoldy, you know, and it's hard. It's hard because in my head, all right, there is this murder hobo, this you know, the straw man murder hobo that lingers at the corners and the outlines of my gaming existence, and that is always there looking over my shoulder whenever I'm writing a game, and I feel like I have to watch out for them. Like I have to go, like, that fucking munchkin is gonna try some bullshit and I need to make sure that he knows no, right? But at the same time, I'm not happy with the fact that it kind of comes off a little scoldy. And so that I kind of wanted to move away. It's weird. It's weird. I mean, this would need a rewrite anyway, especially this part. Maybe leave this part, put this in the GM section, right? Yeah, reword it anyway, but like I don't necessarily want to talk to the players like this by default. Um, but you see where I'm going for, right? And then there's never been or never will be a gift that allows for mind control or for overriding another's free will, period. This is my whole, even the most powerful and knowledgeable wizards who command dozens of the words of magic find that a person's free will simply cannot be touched or influenced through magic. In game terms, you cannot establish a connection to another's free will, even if a person willingly wanted to allow someone to connect to them and control them. Such control would always be incomplete, as the individual always retains the ability to change their mind and take back that consent. The full Last Library game. Oh, you sweet summer fool. Talking as if the Last Library will ever exist. Oh, ask me about the Last Library. Hi, Kitty. Why were you down there? Hey, baby, go. We'll deal with advanced spellcasting and dark wizards in the rumored fourth familiar of words. No, it won't. None of this will ever fucking happen. Maybe when I'm 90. Dan, stop lying. Stop lying to people. You put this in your game. This is never going to happen. Am I ever going to get around to writing Last Library? I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to finish Seeker's Call. This is supposed to be a trilogy of games, by the world. It's Hometown Magic, then Seeker's Call, then The Last Library. Is the trilogy, my fantasy heartbreaker trilogy. Gifts should never cause more problems than they're worth or come with too many unpleasant downsides. Like the point is, like, I had to so much of the gift guidelines are like, guys, please chill out and don't cause trouble with these. That you know, like it's I'm not happy with how this turned out. Anyway, I like the idea of effects being stronger with stronger connection. That could be interesting, but it's not being used. But not if it is useless without connection. Exactly. Like I do the concept of establishing connections and therefore your magic being more powerful with that is not a bad concept. But being completely unable to affect things until you establish a connection, which requires time, effort, and care, that's less fun, right? It's like anytime you arrive at a dungeon, well, the first thing we need to do is really just like get to know this place, which I kind of like as a concept, actually, if I'm being perfectly honest. But again, that would be a better like story, or than it is a game. That like, I mean, I guess I could see a game, right? It's really a heartbreaker because it's its own system. Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's breaking my heart. um, but yeah, like, it's not the worst idea. Like having a game in which you visit, dungeons and delves and whatnot, and the whole point is to then kind of attune yourself and align yourself with the place, which is honestly part of what I want. That's actually part of what I want to see happen with Seeker's Call. But making it so that the bulk of the things that make your character special won't work until after you've already been like there for a while, that's less fun. That's less fun. So that's why in Seeker's Call, in Seeker's Call itself, the way the magic system works is in fact kind of now the opposite, in which when you are outside of Delve, you basically, I kind of like cheated. I kind of cheated by basically making it so that the way you become a seeker, rather than tearing out the word that's on your heart, which is what wizards do, you have an additional word written on your heart, and that word is mystery. And mystery grants you a default built-in connection to the delves. And that's what kind of awakens the noumena, the additional powers that seekers get. And so the idea is that seekers inside a delve have access to more powers and abilities than they do outside, because in fact their connection, their magical connection as a seeker, seekers are made for this, right? They are chosen, they are called, and they chose to answer for this very specific thing. It's what they are for, and therefore, while they do become generally more capable out in the world, the powers do change. They do get to keep their gift, but they also now have a base noumena that they can call upon. But the bulk of their abilities and powers only work within delves. They are more powerful there rather than less powerful, which I think is a better approach to it. And also, it gives you a built-in motivation to keep going into delves, because that's where your character is fun to play. But yeah, so connections. The whole point of connections before was that you had to establish care, and you had to invest care into things to establish connections, and you acquire them. This whole system. Items basically just allow you to use to add bonuses to your rolls. I wanted to have a whole mechanic, which I kind of took out in Seeker's Call, because it's especially since connection isn't really a thing anymore. But there was going to be an item that is particularly special. So it was going to be like a core item. And that item was going to be always connected to you, and was going to be kind of like a workaround. Basically, if anyone that you willingly give the item to, even if only to hold for a moment, is considered connected to you while they are holding the item, as if affected by connection bleed. Like, the fear concept, there is a concept called connection bleed, which if we click on this, takes us there. Humans are unique in their ability to form connections with others and the world around them at an instinctive level. This results in a unique phenomenon known to wizards as connection bleed. In game terms, if you have a connection to another human, anything they are wearing, holding, or touching within reason, touching the ground does not grant a connection to the whole planet. Again, I keep coming off as scolding. Is considered connected directly to you as well. That means that you can use your gift on something in another person's hands without needing a direct connection to it, so long as you are connected to that person. This is fortunate, as otherwise people would have to form meaningful connections to every single cup of coffee before using their gift to warm it. You get the idea, like I had to immediately start adding exceptions to the connection rule to make this game playable, make the gifts usable. So like I like I know what I was trying to do. The execution, I think I didn't do as well on as I could have. To be fair, I wrote all this in less than a month. Wrote and designed all this in less than a month for like our notebooks. Fuck, I'm due a notebook on January. I should probably start working on something. I really do need to put something out for January. Anyway. And then the basic action roll, which is a very different system in this one, yada yada yada, how to use gifts, yada yada yada. Again, none of this really matters as much. There was a whole thing about how to use gifts cooperatively, which I kind of actually dig. Uh, but at the same time, because gifts are so subtle, like this felt like an interesting idea that in the game was not. I mean, who knows? Maybe players would have been actually very inventive with. But the idea was that you could combine your gifts with those of the other kids, and there is a synergizing effect to it. So the more players, the more kids that are actively combining their gifts to achieve something, the more potent the final effect is, above and beyond just, like, oh, 5 kids work together. This is now the equivalent of like if 10 or 20 people had worked together, because there is a synergistic effect is what I wanted to achieve. And fine. Connections, establishing connections, yada yada yada. Anything else? Gaining care. How you gain care basically is the point that you get, so you can establish more connections. There is some growth and advancement. It's very simple. There's not a lot to it. And then again, some storytelling stuff. Some GM guide. And basically, I made a whole point of like, it's basically like I wanted to make capitalism not a thing, but at the same time, like, I mean, it's in the villages. It really isn't a thing. It's just not until you get to the cities that shit gets bad. Blah blah blah. And then combat and conflict. So this is what was happening with the kids for combat and conflict. And violence are unavoidable parts of life. Most tabletop RPGs place a high emphasis on these aspects of the game world. Hometown Magic takes a different approach. As characters are children, they will generally not be expected to go out and slay magical beasts or fight roving bands of bandits. Blah blah blah. Characters do not have classic combat skills such as hit points, armor, or weapon skills. How then do you judge violent conflict and other types of combat? Treat the fight or conflict like any other bit of story. Ask what the characters want to do as part of the fight, then have them roll either a normal action or roll or a gift usage roll as normal, and judge the results accordingly, keeping in mind that the characters are children aged 7 to 13. It's unlikely that they'll be wielding two-handed swords or magical gun blades after all. Think of kids' movies where combat often consists of children outsmarting or outmaneuvering their enemies rather than taking them down in face-to-face combat, and encourage the players, both by leaning on the childlike nature of their characters and on the gentle nature of the world, to look for non-violent solutions to otherwise violent problems, such as fooling the enemy into going elsewhere, distracting or neutralizing them through traps, or even finding ways to convince them to cease hostilities or cooperate with the characters instead. Should the characters fail in their roles, death and serious injury should generally be avoided. Mild injuries such as a scraped knee or a bumped head are common among children, of course, but this is not the kind of game where you want disembowelments and murder. A broken limb should generally be considered the very highest level of injury permissible. Be flexible in looking for ways that the children failing their roles still allows the game to continue, such as having them be kidnapped, thus giving them the chance to escape and continue their adventures, run away and barely escape, leaving the antagonist free to do whatever the characters were trying to stop, or even be rescued by one of the grown-ups from their community. In the end, adventures in Hometown Magic are meant to be learning and growing experiences, not grim tales of death and blood. Jesus, are you listening to me? Optional rule with agreement from the players beforehand. If a failed roll with a permanent consequence of a character, the storyteller may offer to add an additional discord to the character to reflect the consequence. These added discords can be changed or removed as normal at the end of a session. Yada yada yada. So that was the game. That's a kind of shitty character sheet here, and some notes, and then a bad picture of me also run through a filter. Is the thing. If children are meant to be wholesome, not sure if Jesus had heard the concept. Well, yeah, no, Jesus's children are all little bastards, every single one of them. I was trying to write an anti-Jesus game, I think, really deep in my heart, is what I wanted to do. Did I succeed? It's not the worst thing I've ever made. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever made, but I'm less than thrilled with it. But rather than rewrite it, I went on to Seeker's Call. So there we go. Let's switch over to Seeker's Call. Now that we've gotten a sort of general idea where I came from the core of what this was. Now we're in Seeker's Call. Now we're in a different world. Now we are more grown up, and now we get to actually get into fights and get hurt and hurt other people, right? So that's a different approach I'm going to take here. Hey, photo style waves from dice. Hey, welcome in from Mastodon. People say that there is no such thing, but look at it. There it is, a person having found their way from Mastodon all the way over to Twitch. Holy shit. It's working. It's working. They said I couldn't do it. They said it couldn't be done. And yet here I am. Welcome in, friend. Welcome in. I do have to apologize because I'm like a minute away from doing the ads that have to happen every half hour, or else the Twitch gods are upset at me. So I apologize for throwing ads at you mere moments after you arrived. Blame the streaming gods, unfortunately. So how does combat in Seeker's Call? Well, excellent question, Phoenix, because you see, I have a system which I'm about to completely scrap and start from scratch when I go here. Playing the game. See, we got playing the game, we got the action roll, which we've spoken about at length in previous streams. So if you want an explanation of how your basic action roll works, please let me know in chat, and I'll try and do a quick elevator pitch for it. But otherwise, this is going to be combat. So we'll go over what I have now, which is all of which is going away, and then we'll do what I told myself to do here, which is scrap it all and do it all over. And we'll do all of that, ladies, gentlemen, and folks, when we come back from the ads. We'll be right back. Skulls for the Skull Throne, capitalism for the capitalist god. Indeed. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. All right, so now that you have an idea of where, the roots of where Seeker's Call came from, some things that you're about to see here might make a little more sense. So let me walk through what I've got now so that we can properly, absolutely tear it apart and do something new. The wilds of the world can be a dangerous place. Most of the dangers come from the strange and ever-shifting landscape itself. Vast chasms that separate one area from another might require careful navigation over ancient rickety bridges, or traversing a dark swamp could involve avoiding quicksand traps and skirting around pockets of flammable gas. Even within a delve, their strange, otherworldly geometry and wild pockets of uncontrolled magic can pose a major threat to an expedition. Most of the time, these threats can be overcome or bypassed through clever navigation, sharp observation, and the efforts of a well-prepared expedition working together. But sometimes, these threats take on a darker tone. Wild beasts driven to madness, or even hostile inhabitants of a delve itself. Every expedition knows that violence is rarely the answer to a problem, but there may be times when it is unavoidable, and every expedition likewise knows to be prepared for those moments when blood may be spilled, and the price such actions demand. Combat in Seeker's Call is relatively uncommon. The majority of situations, challenges, and threats faced by an expedition will be tests of their resolve, skills, and luck. Most delves are places of wild magic, dangerous, to be sure, but not actively hostile. Generally speaking, guides are discouraged from presenting players with challenges that are solvable only or primarily through violence. That said, when a fight does break out, such moments tend to be memorable and, above all, consequential. When combat first starts, the player should come to an agreement on their goal in this fight, whether it's to eliminate the enemy, open a way through, evade them entirely, or another course of action. In order to achieve that goal, they will have to win the fight. In the chaos of combat, it's easy to lose track of events, and so instead of a round-by-round slugfest, we resolve it in a series of volleys. This was the original idea. So it's basically going to be 3 volleys. So every combat was effectively going to be 3 opposed rolls, and you win if you win 2 out of 3. A volley is a single moment in combat, but unlike the concept of a round, it is not a fixed time period. Instead, a volley describes a pivotal moment in a battle. Think of it like this. We're not describing every punch thrown, we're describing the blows that matter. Which, a lot of what I'm going to do, what I'm going to change it into, keeps this kind of philosophy, I think. But I think we'll hopefully do a better job of it. So during a volley, the guide will describe the current situation of the battle, such as what enemy the characters face, where they are in relation to the characters, and any other notable details. Guides, see page blah in the guide in the game section for more details and ideas. That's not written yet. That other game at least was finished. This one's very early on. So for anybody who's new to these streams, this is a very early development game, like super early. So don't expect the links to work or anything like that. We are literally, again, we are about to tear out a part of the engine and remake it from scratch because I've made a choice. So the players then describe what actions the characters sometimes would take in that moment, whether it be to attack the enemy, use gift or numina, activate an item, or any other action designed to bring them closer to their stated goal for this fight. This is not that different from what I'm trying to... Hi, cat. I see you back there. Hi, sweetheart. Were you clawing at my chair? Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Hi, baby girl. What's up? I thought you wanted out. I opened the door for you. Folks, you can barely see her because the camera is blurring her. But hey, come on, get over here. There we go. In fact, give me a second, folks. I'm just gonna roll off camera just a moment here and try and close my door. Good enough. Hi. Roll back. Of course, now the cat is off my lap. Okay, now that I've closed the door, the cat, okay, now she's, okay, there we go. The moment I closed the door, the cat was like, oh, no, I need to be on the other side of that. Cat ownership, it's the best. Where's my wires? Here we go. Let's roll back on. Let's roll back over here. Kitty, yes, indeed. You will occasionally, we will occasionally be visited by my cat Esmeralda. She occasionally demands attention, because it's basically just me and her here most of the time. And if I'm talking, if I'm making the mouth sounds, it's usually at her. So whenever I'm streaming, she or if I'm on a video call or whatever, she is pretty convinced that I must be talking to her. I'm not. I'm talking to you. Talking to you folks. Yeah, I don't want her to leave. I would rather she stay here so I could close the door. But while she insists on being in the living room, I cannot close the door because this is the room where all her things are, like food and water. So I can't just close the door on her. But I would like to close the door because despite just saying that it's just me and her here most of the time, today my current housemate is over on the other side of the apartment, and I try not to make too much noise when we have company. So anyway, back to the game. Getting distracted. Welcome for those of you new to the stream. This is me. The constant derailments. Yeah, hi. Welcome. I'm the problem. It's me. All right, so again, this part about the volleys and the idea, this whole thing about we're not describing every punch thrown, we're describing the blows that matter. A lot of this will kind of still stay for what we want. So to determine the result of the volley, you make a single action roll for each character involved in the combat. add 1 die to the roll. Then for each character, add the appropriate modifiers for any aspects, gift, numina, items, discourse, injuries, or other effects that may apply to the action they're taking. The guide then takes any situational modifiers as necessary. Additionally, each enemy will have a rank based on the power and abilities. Strength is subtracted from the roll for each enemy. This is starting to get complicated. I don't like it. Players may then, if they choose, risk connection to add more dice to the pool as per a normal action. At this point, we might have dozens of dice in this pool, one way or another, as players just risk connection, throw dice, whatever. And then if the roll fails, all players lose any risk connection points as normal. In addition, every character receives at least 1 injury discord. Certain enemies may cause more than 1 injury per volley. Certain character abilities and items can negate some or all that damage as well. Blah, blah. Success. Discover. If the combat volley roll succeeds, players decide whether to write or discover the result. Fine. And then how to use resonance. But again, I don't like the fact that all these things, like, each volley was meant to be resolved with a single roll, but we were tossing so much into that roll. So any numina effects, any item usages, and a lot of the stuff was just meant to add or remove dice from the roll. But there were... Hi, sweetheart. I see you. Wait, give me a second. Give me a second. Let's try it. Actually, close that door. There we go. We did it. We did it. We closed the door. Let me see if I can actually get her on stream. Hey, sweetheart, you wanna visit? You wanna be on camera? You wanna be on camera? Come on, let's get the people to meet you. Let's get people to meet you. Come here. Hi, everybody. This is my cat. She does not like being held at all. She hates every second of being held. She loves to be on my lap and be on me, but very much on her terms. She does not like being picked up. She would much prefer if I would just lay back so that she could use me as furniture. And she's mildly upset that I'm not doing that. She's currently tolerating kind of being held a little bit. But any second now, the biting will commence because this is not her favorite. There it is. There it is. All right, sweetheart, I'm going to let you down. Come on. There it is. I told you the biting would commence. The biting will continue until morale improves. That is my cat. I love her. I would end bloodlines for her. Now, what I don't like about this is that it really makes combat... It was meant to simplify combat, and instead just made combat into 3 ridiculously complicated roles. And that's not what I want. It's not what I want. There's this whole thing about injury and healing. Most of this will stick around, actually. This part about injury and healing will stick around. This whole combat movement, all this is going away. None of this applies anymore. But these will, because injuries, discords, minor, major injuries, like these are the effect. This is how you take damage. Basically, characters by default. I think I changed the wording on this, but by default, actually, can we just open up a new tab? Give me a second. Let's go back to here and character creation reference. Open a new tab. So let me see. So it's not here. It's not here. Is it becoming a seeker? Is it playing the game? Action roll, risking connection, combat magic after advancement. Okay, I know I somewhere defined that. Could have sworn it was here. Oh yeah, it is here. Yeah, it is here actually. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this part is actually probably going to stick around. While combat is not the only way to receive injuries, it's one of the most common injuries, specific type of discord that denotes physical damage to your character. So basically, your basic injury discord, when it gets applied to your character, it has the effect is -1 dice on physical action rolls. And combat volley rounds, this will go away. In fact, just take this away. Let's see. So physical action rolls until resolved can stack with other injuries. Resolution: injuries heal naturally with a week of rest outside of a delve or a full night's rest within a delve. So basically, you heal faster when you're inside of a delve. Only 1 injury will heal at a time. Each character has a knockout rating. If you reach as many active injuries as your knockout rating during combat, then you are fittingly enough knocked out. This may mean different things depending on the source of damage or the situation in which you were knocked out. Perhaps you take a blow to the head and fall unconscious, or fallen or helplessly pinned, or the pain of an injury renders you unable to move or to continue. In any case, a knocked out character can no longer contribute to action rolls. Action or combat. There we go. Because we'll get we are adding one roll. We'll see. And can take no further action this combat unless someone or something else assists them. Some gifts, numina, or items may be able to bring a knocked out character back into combat. For most characters, your knockout rating is 3. Certain callings, gifts, numina, or items can increase this rating, or you can increase it through character advancement. Once combat is over, a knocked out character will be able to recover and return to consciousness. Any injuries are removed and immediately replaced with a major injury discord. A major injury gives you -3 dice on physical action rolls and combat on physical action rolls. I hate that it does that. Physical action rolls. Boop, boop, boop. Until resolved. Can stack with other injuries. Your injuries heal naturally within a month of rest or within a week's rest into the delve. Major injuries heal one at a time. Cannot heal until all regular injuries have been healed first. If a character is not knocked out but still ends combat with 3 or more injuries, remove all their injuries and replace it with a major injury. Certain gifts, numina, or items say able to heal injuries and major injuries. See a specific ability item descriptions on for details. Generally speaking, character death is up to the player, while getting knocked out or otherwise losing in combat can be frustrating and need not necessarily be the end of your character. Both players and guides are strongly encouraged to find ways to keep the story going, even in the case when an entire group is knocked out. Who doesn't love a good prison break story after all? However, if a player wishes, they can choose to have the character die as part of being knocked out. If they do so, the guide should encourage them to have one last moment with the character, describe those last moments. However, as some players may prefer to have a risk of lethality to their game, you may use the optional lethal damage rule below. Lethal damage rule. If you use this optional rule, when you reach your knockout rating and injuries, rather than getting knocked out, the injuries are immediately converted to a major injury and combat continues. If a character receives a second major injury while the first remains, they die. So it's optional, but it's pretty reasonable. Like if you're taking that much damage, you're getting hit that much. Yeah, that's kind of how it works. Okay, so that's damage. But now this is all going away, right? This is yeah. Forget, we're talking about volleys here. So what are we actually going to do different? As I keep saying, I don't like this. Volleys are going away. All of this is going away. Gives Newman in combat. All of this is going away. Boop. Leave it just injury and healing. Now, let's call this the combat. Okay, so I'm stealing a mechanic. The approach that I want to do is I still want combat itself, the fight itself, the final result of the fight will be resolved with a single roll. That is how you resolve a fight. You make a combat roll. And that combat roll by default is going to be a single d6. Just like it's just a normal action roll. Just a normal action roll. The action roll system in this game starts with a single d6 and it succeeds if you roll a 1. Anything else, failure. So combat by default, the moment a fight starts, you start with a combat roll of 0, right? And then the GM defines a few things. The GM goes, first of all, certain monsters and enemies will have a combat rating. So and the lower that is, the worse it is for you. The worse it is for the players. So a combat rating 2 character enemy is a lot easier to beat than a combat rating -2 enemy, because a combat rating 2 enemy would add 2 dice to that initial 1 dice pool in combat. So just when you're fighting these guys, they're easy enough that without even doing anything, you could make that roll right now, and you start that roll with 3 dice, which is not the best chance in the world, right? But still better than a single die, and so forth. So that is it. It's very basic. How is combat? You make a combat roll. Of course, you're gonna want to modify that roll, right? You, the players, the characters, are going to want to do something besides just go like, we meet a monster, okay, roll the dice and the one time and see if we beat it, right? No, what can I do to increase my chances? What can I, as a seeker, do to increase my chances of getting what I want out of combat, right? So combat begins. The GM declares a difficulty based on the enemy, and you might add some environmental stuff as well if you want to. At this point, like, you basically, you as the GM, as a guide, are setting the difficulty for this fight to start with. And usually it's going to go from -3 to +3. I might go bigger on those ranges. I think maybe -6 to +6 or something like that, because the players are going to get a lot of chances to do stuff here. And the way this works is players. So the way normal action rolls work, players can risk dice from a pool that they have to increase their chances of doing that roll. Again, anybody on the stream who wants me to take a side digression and go back and talk about the core dice system in the game, I can take a pause and do that, and then kind of refocus on this if you need that in order for this to make a little bit more sense. But the combat roll is not a standard action roll. That's why I'm defining it as its own separate thing. It's not an action roll, it is the combat roll. Because the combat roll, you cannot risk your pool. You cannot risk your connection, rather. It's called the pool. The whole thing about connection from the other game got turned into this pool, this connection pool of dice that your character has that you can kind of spend to activate, to do your rolls, to do your actions, to increase your chances, right? You cannot spend your connection dice on a combat roll directly. What you do, so combat basically begins and ends on that roll. The players are the ones, and this is a kind of a theme in the game design that I'm trying to do, where I leave as much choice as possible on character action to the characters, to the players. I try whenever possible to not take away their choices. So the characters get to decide when they're gonna make that roll, but they can take as little or as much time as they want to keep fighting, basically, to adjust that roll. So the fight itself takes place before the combat roll by basically saying, okay, I'm playing Bob the Bulwark, right? The Bulwarks are one of the character classes kind of in the game, one of the callings, and Bulwarks. By the way, I hope my audio is coming through okay. There is heavy machinery right outside my window. Let me actually bear with me a moment, folks. Let me see how bad it is out there. Okay, cool. So they have been doing construction outside my window for months, and it looks like they are finally pouring asphalt out there, fresh, hot asphalt. Good. I'm glad you're not hearing anything, because boy, like, literally my apartment is vibrating at a constant rate right now because of all the trucks outside. So good. I'm glad you can't hear it. Thanks. Gracias. Okay, so how do I, as a character, as a player, me, Bob the Bulwark, I want to increase our chances of making this combat roll. I want to add some dice to that pool. I cannot directly add my dice or anything. Good. Cool. I'm glad it's not coming through. Thank you, expensive mic, and thank you, NVIDIA Broadcast, for filtering that out, because it feels wild for me. So I want to modify this roll. So every player will get to take an action if they choose to. They don't have to, because your actions will carry a risk. But basically, the idea is that you are going to take an action. You tell me what you're doing in this combat, in this fight, and in this you can activate Numina. You can use items, whatever you want to do. Just tell me what you're doing in this fight. I want to rush in and start punching people, or I want to activate one of my Numina to increase my ability to resist damage during this fight, or whatever you want to do, right? And once you make the roll, two things happen. One, whatever your action resolves in whichever way it ends up resolving, failure or success. And if it's a success, you apply whatever effect from the action, right? So if the action in and of itself would have had some kind of effect, like you activated some kind of fire ability, so now there is fire. So that happens. Now you have established that there's fire. But also any hits, any successes that you rolled on that now get added to the pool for that combat roll, because you succeeded. You did something good in combat. You did something successfully during this combat that increased your side's chances of winning. Enemies will not get to directly act. You as the GM will kind of describe their reactions, but it's based on the character's rolls. If a character rolls and fails in their action, then two things happen. One, a X amount of dice are removed from the combat pool. And my instinct for that is to say that it is the rating of the monster. If it is a positive rating, then it's just one die. But if it's any negative rating, the -2, -3, then that many dice get taken away from the pool, and you as a character, your character receives an injury in that fight. So that's why I'm saying you might sit it out. You might just like, no, my character kind of hides or does nothing. Cool. You have no effect in this combat, but also, well, you have no effect in this combat, which means that if you lose, well, it's kind of your fault because you didn't do anything, and you will suffer whatever consequences are due to losing this conflict, right? This combat. But you can, if you have a character who's looking bad or has really nothing they can do, you can just choose to skip your turn. That's fine. But it is, again, up to the player. Like, every player can act and risk as much as they personally are willing to. So, for example, had that bulwark succeeded, and then the other characters in the party also succeeded, and we started combat at -2, right? This was a -2 earth elemental kind of creature, right? And so it's combat rating -2. So we started at -2, which means that you need to at least get 2 successes just to break even, and then any more successes after that will be added to the die, right? So let's say the bulwark rolled, you did one of your powers, you're now more stronger, and you got like 3 hits on that roll, very nice roll. So now you added 3. So the first 2 cancel out because of the -2. And then the third one now raises the pool by 1. So now the pool is 2 dice, the combat dice. And then the other people in the party do their rolls, and let's say they all succeed. So now that combat pool is 5 dice. At that point, you as a party might go like, I like my chances. Let's do it. Let's make this roll. And designate somebody, pick up all 5 dice, roll them. Even a single one comes up, you win the fight. But if no ones come up, then you lost, right? Your team, you would not achieve what you were trying to do, and now we play through that. But it's basically up to the characters themselves to like, and I'd say like, one of the consequences from losing might be everybody gains an injury or something along those lines. But the length of combat itself is defined by how much your characters are willing to keep fighting, basically, right? Like, it's always up to the players. The players can always decide to just make that combat roll and end this whenever they want. But if they make a couple of rolls and they're like, oh man, we're still only at our combat pool is still only 2 dice. We're hurting, but we need to keep going. Let's go. Let's take one more round of actions. And you might go, and you might take some rules. Somebody might still get injured further, or you might get to add more dice, and eventually you get to like 6, 7, 8 dice in that combat pool. And they're like, yeah, all right, we are dominating. Let's do this. Let's end this fight. Roll those 8 dice, and hopefully at least one of them comes up with a 1, and boom, fight. The conflict resolves, and the players get what they wanted, and we do the conflict resolution in the usual style of action in this game, which is writing or discovering. Writing is basically players take full control of the narrative and describe their victory, and that's it. Discovering is players give up, like they still get what they want, but they give up narrative control to the GM, who may choose to do a yes and or yes but, like you still get the thing, you still won, but now there's something, an extra complication, and in return the players, the characters get rewarded by gaining some dice to their personal connection pools. So that's part of how you recover that, right? So it's always like that back and forth of like, players can have narrative control whenever they want it, but anytime they're willing to kind of give up that narrative control, they get rewarded for it with extra game resources, basically, for their character. So that's it in a nutshell, what I'm gonna be trying to do with the combat role, right? It's going to be its own standalone thing that your players are going to affect with standard action rolls that are really no different from any other action role. So there's nothing outside, there's no special combat powers or abilities or anything like that. It's just things you are doing during this conflict to increase your team's chances of success. And it all just goes into this one combat role, which is up to the players when they're willing to, okay, let's settle this kind of thing. That's the vibe. Does that sound reasonable to folks? Like we're gonna have to go to ads in just about 1 minute, so perfect time to like take a little bit of thought and think about it. But I'm curious, chat, anybody on chat, if you have any thoughts about that, anything that immediately stands out, like, oh, that would not be fun, or actually that would be fun if, or I immediately thought of a way to break your system, you are the worst, anything like that, please throw it on chat while I throw us off the proverbial ad cliff and give the capitalist gods what they want, their ad time. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Let's see here. So catching up on chat real quick, Phoenix says, the system seems to work in my head. It works in mine too, but that's not saying much. Anything can be broken, of course, but that would depend on powers available. Fair. And that's something we still need to work on, right? Because as I kind of saw while looking at the crafting system yesterday, most powers and abilities, like the bulwark is a good example. Let's actually open up a tab for the bulwark, because they are the simplest character class, and therefore they make a decent example of how it goes when it's easy. So your callings got a bulwark here. So like the bulk of their powers, and that's another thing. I kind of have to now revisit everybody's abilities to make sure that they fit with this sort of new system, right? And that makes sense within the system, right? Um, but most of the abilities do stuff like they grant dice and resonance on a roll, ignore one minor injury, prevent a set of minors from becoming a major, um, grant +3 on resonance, take a free +3 to the next action roll, remove minor discord injury. Focuses the target to pay attention only to them. Prevent so some stuff like this. A focused bulwark is impossible to ignore. By activating this Lumina, a bulwark forces their target to pay attention only to them, preventing them from taking any actions that do not involve the bulwark directly. While there is no additional connection cost associated with maintaining this effect, the bulwark must maintain it by likewise keeping their actions focused on their target. If the bulwark takes an action that does not involve their target, the effect immediately ends. So, for example, this ability here doesn't break anything, but it is more like at the end of the day, the effect that it would have on the combat roll really would be okay. So I'm the bulwark, and we are fighting a band of enemies, and there is a leader enemy and a few mooks, and I, as the bulwark, decide I'm a go tank, and I am going to use my lockdown ability on that on the leader, right? Lock him down so he can't hurt any of my team members or the rest of the expedition. He has to be focused only on me. The downside is I have to stay focused only on him. So this is narrative. This is happening narratively, right? It's like, okay, so you and the enemy leader are facing down. You are, you're holding them back. Describe whatever happens, right? Describe how your character does that, how they activate their power, how they glow, or whatever it is you're doing to keep the enemy's attention through that power. And then roll, and then make a roll, then make an action roll, and the results of that roll, however many hits you get, add it to the combat roll to increase your side's chances. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is, in terms of system, is adding dice to that combat pool from your side, right? Everything you're doing, the net effect, while there may be different narrative things happening, the net mechanical effect is X amount of dice are hopefully getting added to that combat roll pool for later. And so now I got to think, okay, cool. But with that system, should this have something extra? So basically say make it so neither you or the boss can affect the roll. Right, exactly. It sounds like it should be something, but since initially enemies are not going to have action rolls, so we've got a couple of different effects that we could do. One is something along those lines, where basically it makes it so that your bulwark, your character, is effectively canceling out that enemy's contribution to the negative combat pool, right? So, for example, you're fighting. The thing is, by definition, well, let's think about it a moment, right? Because the enemy that you're fighting is not necessarily a single person. You're fighting a situation. You're trying to win this combat situation. So, if this combat situation involves multiple enemies, then at that point, as a GM, I would have a combat rating for each of those enemies. So I guess you add them all together, right? And that's the final sort of difficulty, effectively, of that combat roll. And so, if that's how we're doing this, then by activating lockdown, your bulwark would basically lock down one of those enemies. And so that specific enemy's negative, so basically you're canceling out an enemy's damage, basically, or an enemy's effect on the combat roll, which is not bad. And in fact, if anything, makes this power more powerful the more powerful your target, because the bigger your target gives you in fact a motivation to go aim for the big guy, because you can only lock down one at a time. The bigger the target you lock down, the better the mechanical effect to your roll, which is cool. And I think we can leave it at that. Because I was going like, should the bulwark take damage on that? No. If they fail the roll, yes. Well, no, this isn't a roll though. You just kind of activate it. All right. So actually, no. I like how this works. I like how this works as it is. Yeah, I like that as a bulwark because it is a lockdown. It is just like, okay, here's a thing I can do, and it doesn't even require a roll. I can basically kind of like point at that guy and go like, you and me, we are now out of this equation. So long as I keep focused on you, you're not going to hurt anybody else. If I keep doing more stuff, if I make that roll, so yeah, that just happens, and then the bulwark is not receiving any damage, but he's also not further participating in the battle, right? So that's the downside. There's not necessarily a risk to the bulwark in terms of damage, but it effectively, like, that is what the thing you are doing for this combat. You are locking down this one guy. No, there's no cost to activating directly. There's no additional connection cost to activate and maintaining this effect. Actually, no, sorry, my bad. There is a cost to activate it. Yes. It costs 1 to activate it, and then you can kind of just maintain it round after round. So basically, without having to spend anything. So like, again, you can kind of just do that. It's less from a fun at the table mechanic. It's kind of boring in the sense that it basically allows you to just kind of go like, all right, cool, I'm walking down that guy anyway. I'm gonna go to the bodega and buy some snacks. I'll be back. My character will just be keeping this guy locked down. Y'all do other stuff. Let me know if we make the roll at the end. Right? I don't want to encourage that either. Okay. Let's do. How about this? How about? Because that's not the worst thing. That's not the worst thing. But now I'm thinking I actually might want to give enemies a chance to fight back a little more. Like, enemies will have a difficulty rating, a challenge rating, if you will, a CR, right? That initially affects the combat roll. But yeah, I mean, we want to make enemies. We want to make the enemies in this game more spread out, right? More unique than just like, well, what's the difference between a challenge rating -3 vampire versus a challenge rating -3 dragon? Like, they've got to have something else, right? That sets them apart. So. So, okay, let's give that some thought. All of this ties in together. That's the fun part, quote unquote, for certain values of fun. The fun part about game design, right? Let me just kind of open here, combat. Yeah. Go down here, the combat roll. I mean, I know what I want. I'll write here later. But let's go. Boop boop boop. Enemies. Create a header for that. And let's kind of define enemies, how that works. For combat purposes, enemies, enemies are creatures, beings, automata, automata, automatatas, automatas, and enemy. I don't know, man. Automata. Just enemies are creatures that are actively trying to impede or harm a character. I feel like there would be an effect. Limitation can only affect creatures challenge rating lower than bulwark stat. Maybe. Let's see. Or if you fail roll to block, take damage. No, the failing the roll will definitely, because that's definitely gonna be there. Like that's gonna be like failing a I'm definitely gonna have to add something like that. But also again, I want to have the creatures, the enemies, be able to do things. So enemies and harm a character's character in their adventure. Combat. They are defined by 4 qualities: their name, their description, their challenge, and their, let's call it tricks for now. We'll come up with it. Basically, it's going to be the monster abilities. Like the things that the monsters can do. And most monsters will have one trick. Some monsters may have multiple tricks. Or enemies may have multiple tricks. Let's go with tricks for now. But that's it's up for debate. I'm not married to the term. And their tricks. Okay, and let's kind of define those. So, name. What the enemy is called. This may be their individual name or the name of their species or kind. And then we got the description. That's pretty straightforward as well. A description. God damn it. Why am I so bad at typing when I'm on stream? I swear I'm so much. I can just when I'm not having anybody watch me. A description of what the enemy looks like, acts like, and typical behaviors. I guess, yeah, sure. Why? This all needs rewriting. This is the first draft at best. Okay, now your challenge. A rating of how powerful or difficult to defeat the enemy is. Most enemies have a challenge rating of 0. Particularly weak enemies may have CRs. Challenge, whatever. For sure, we'll work on this terminology later. CRs of 1, 2, or higher, while more powerful enemies have negative CRs, such as -2, -3, or lower. The CR of an enemy is subtracted from the available pool for the combat roll to defeat them. And then finally, tricks. God damn it. Are for kids. Tricks are the unique powers, abilities, or skills that an enemy can bring to bear during a combat. Cool. That's it as a definition. And enemies, most enemies have at least one trick. More powerful beings and have 3 or more tricks available. Cool. So that's a creature. Let's do a sample creature, right? So see at we're gonna call this no, we're not gonna call it. Ooh, can I wait? I can create custom ones, right? How do I create customs? Oh, give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna be weird. Give me a moment. We're checking my plugins. Admonition. Can I define? How do I define? Okay, there we go. Import admin. Choose files. Wait, how do? Oh God, some kind of JSON thing? That's horrible. Really? This how you want me to? Can I not? Why is there not just something I can just? Oh, here, add new. Okay, add new. Here, admonition type. I'm gonna call this enemy, right? Enemy. Actually, I'm gonna call that SC enemy. Seeker's call enemy. Enemy. And we're going to go call that enemy. Enemy. And then we're going to get an icon. Oh, can I not have a? Okay, here we go. So we got icons. Is there anything in here that I can use that's like one that's like a little skull? Oh, this one's a little bomb. Like a little skull one. Oh, here we go. This one's nice. Biohazard, sure. And let's change the color on that to red as well. Oh, there we go. That's what it's going to look like. Okay, cool. Let's do that and then close that out. I do love obsidian. AD enemy. This enemy. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to well, first of all, yeah. Name. Description. Oh. Let's create an enemy, right? Challenge. Oh. And finally, bricks. All right, let's do a simple ogre. Let's do like a simple ogre. So let's call this stone ogre. And description: the stone ogre is a fearsome beast that stands over 12 feet tall. Apologies to any non-Americans in the chat. I am still imperial pilled and have not fully migrated to the metric system, much to my own chagrin. Over 12 feet tall, with rippling muscles matched only by the depth of their stupidity. Sure. Hi, Kitty. I see you down there. I know. There's so much heavy equipment outside, and it's making you nervous, I can tell. All right, so let's say that the Stone Ogre is a challenge -2. One thing I don't like is that there are whiffs of Thaco here. That a lower number, like basically having negative, It reminds me of armor class. To hit armor class 0, it reminds me of like back in the day when like D&D armor classes, the lower the armor class, the better. And so the same thing, like the lower the challenge rating, the more powerful. I don't like it. Yeah, exactly. Like Thaco, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking that. I don't like it. I instinctively want something that makes better sense. I instinctively want some. Hi, Katie. I see you. Do you want to jump up here? Oh, she's jumping. No, come on. Oh my God, sweetheart. Yeah, come on, come on. No. All right, fine. I thought she was going to jump up here. But yeah, I want. Yeah, that's exactly proper spelling. Thank you very much. Um, um, hmm. So how can we convert this so that the higher the challenge, the more difficult, right? I mean, we can just have it be a number and define it as the number of dice to subtract from. Okay. Here's the thing that I'm going to do. Here's the thing that I'm going to do. The combat roll. Let's actually take a step back. Let's talk about the combat roll a moment, okay? So the combat roll. The combat roll is a special roll made to resolve the to discover the resolution of a combat or conflict scene. Boom. When combat breaks out, a combat pool of dice is created, and then the other steps. Start with 1 die, 1d6. Add an additional d6 for each character taking part in combat. Subtract 1d6. No, subtract. No, okay. Add up the challenge ratings for all enemies in combat and subtract that many dice from the combat pool. This cannot reduce the pool to less than 1 die. That's a little bit better, I think. You would hate it, but it would be like D&D and just makes the base number 0 to 10 and make the challenge rating additive. Easy monster, 10 harder, 20 hardest. Maybe. But then at this point, so here's the thing. I think I solved it. Is this part, because this wasn't here before, right? You would start with 1d6, and then certain more powerful, certain weaker enemies would add to that. So now by default, challenge rating 0 is challenge 0 enemies are just do nothing, so they're easier to beat. And so if the bigger your group, the bigger your expedition, the better your chances, right? And then, sweetheart, I see you there from the corner of my eye. What time is it? It's 4 p.m., girl. It's 4 p.m. You're not actually hungry. I know for a fact that it's still like 2 hours before your feeding time. You're just looking for attention. Yeah, she wants so much attention today. It's because it's raining out there. She gets schmoopy when it's raining. But yeah, like adding this, sweetheart, really? Must you? Come on. You want attention? I'm giving you attention. Folks, having a cat. Come on. So either you get on my lap or you stop clawing at my chair. Okay, Yes, come on, come on. Get on the lap. Come on. Come on, you can do this. I believe in you. She's great. Come on. Come on. There we go. And then immediately hops off. And then immediately hops off. God damn it, cat. All right. Guys, we have ads very soon. We have ads very soon. We are on the last hour of today's stream. So before we go to ads, yeah, I think doing this makes it so that you don't need. It just makes it so like, yeah, the challenge ratings can go from 0 up to whatever, and just the higher the challenge rating, the more dice get subtracted from the pool. I think that works. And then by having just enough, having one additional one for each member. So with your average party group, right, with your average like 4-player party group, all of a sudden you're starting each combat with 5d6. Even without risking anything else, without doing anything else, you're doing 5d6. And 5d6 is not that bad. Like, I have a... Let me see. What's the command? It's not... nope. It's not that either. What is the... God damn it. Sorry. It's not that either. Nope. It's a command palette. Is it... No, it's not K. P for palette. There we go. So, dice roller. Here we go. Open dice view. Here we go. So, if we do 5d6, right? Because you have 1d6, right? 1d6 for an average, that's a 6. That's a fail. All right, that's not great. But, and if we wanted to re-roll it again, right? Yeah, 1d6. So you can keep. Yeah, your chances are not good with a single d6. We haven't rolled a single one yet. There we go. Finally won a combat with just 1d6. Now, with 5d6, all of a sudden... Okay, now is there a way to have it just show me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. Nah. Okay, that's a shame. I was really hoping this would have a way to show the specific. This is not the best dice roller for what I want. That's a shame. That's a shame. I mean, it's nice that I've got an integrated dice roller on Obsidian, but it's not what I wanted. So let me actually, give me a second. I want to show y'all something. I'm going to show you all something. Let me, there's a website. Dice probability. Let's see. Any Dice. Yeah, Any Dice, I believe is the site. Yeah, okay. So let me kind of match these windows in size so I have an idea here. And then let's go ahead and just kind of switch over to the browser real quick. Okay. I mean, okay, there we go. Let's move that down a little. There we go. Now we got it better. It's anydice.com. That's better, kinda. All right. So with 5d6 now, your chances look a little bit more like this all of a sudden. You have actually wait. There's a specific. What's the format? Actually, wait. They already have one for here. Function library, I believe. Sequence exposed. No, it's not that. Back. Is it in articles? The pool. Here we go. Yeah. Hi, kitty. What is it? You want? Come on. No? Just looking for. Okay, I'm gonna let you out. Bear with me, folks. I'm gonna let the cat out because she is just. Okay, come on. Come on, sweetheart. You want out? You get out. There you go. But now stay out there, okay? I'll be back. The funny part is, since I've got my mic attached, you can go off camera, but you can still hear me clearly. One would hope. Anyway, let's go back. Okay, so the pool, a milestone RPG design. It is. It's brilliant. I stole this system. I love it. Here we go. So this is exactly what we want, I think. Right? Yeah. So this, where'd my tab go? No. Why? No, that's not what I copied. Hey, hey, hey. Copied this. Come on. Copy. There we go. And paste. There we go. Okay. So if we do that, the graph, you can see what your chances look like. So at 1D, is this actually showing up? Give me a second. Okay, cool. So you can in fact see this. So I'm hitting you with some math, but this is the math for the system, right? Basically, at the 5D, at the 5 dice mark, or really the 4 dice mark, is when your chances of success, right? Because the success is even a single die with a 1 is a success in this game. This is not counting any extra hits or anything like that, but your chances of succeeding are basically 50-50 once you hit 4. Oh, we just hit ads. We just hit ads. I just realized we're in ads. I'm going to pause. You know what? Be right back. Be right back. Because I just realized ads went live. So let's go ahead and do that. Nope. Okay, we're back. We're back. I did lose track of the ads, but now we're back. And I started looking at Blue Sky while I was doing that, so let's go back. Here we go. Dice. Again, in this game, the way the system is, you're gonna want to, so you at least have a coin flip chance of success. You generally want your dice pool, whenever you're rolling, to be at least 4 dice. That gives you 50-50. At 5 dice, so that's gonna be your average starting party against any number of challenge 0 enemies, is going to have about a 60% chance of winning a fight, even if they take no further risks, do nothing else. That's not bad, but it also is a built-in encouragement that, like, you want to get, because even at 10 dice, now your chances only went up to about 80%. There is a certain level of diminishing returns the bigger it goes, I guess. If we wanted to go, can I keep going? 1, 2, let's see. If I want to go to 220 here, and as you calculate that, yeah, even so, about around 15, yeah, around 13 dice even, because at that point, like, you're just going up by 1%, and not even that between 16 and 17, right? So less than 1% chance. So really, in an ideal world, your lucky number is 13, right? You're rarely, if ever, going to be able to put 13 dice into a dice pool. But even if you got like an 8 or 9, you're sitting pretty, right? That's a pretty good chance. So I just wanted to show this so y'all can have an idea of what the numbers look like, what the percentages and the chances of success actually look like in this game, so that we can have a better idea of sort of power levels, right? Because at that point, like an enemy that, so if you're starting at 5D, right? An enemy that takes you from 5D down to 3D just lowered you, gave you like almost a full 20% less chance of winning in combat, right? So that's a substantial amount. But yeah, as a combat group, as a party, I think the magic number, the one that most parties are gonna want to aim for, is probably gonna be around 8 dice. Like I think most parties will feel comfortable making that combat roll at around the 8 dice point. Um, and in order to do that, if you're starting at 5, and let's say you got brought down to maybe 3 because there's enough challenge, there's enough challenge monsters and everything that 2 points. So you're starting at 3D for this combat, which means you're gonna want to add at least 5 more dice right before your average party feels comfortable taking the chance on that combat roll. Which fine. So with that in mind, we go to change the app capture back to Obsidian. Here we go. Go back to a little stone ogre here. So he's a -2. He's fairly powerful, right? No worries, Phoenix. Thanks. Take care. We're on the last hour anyway. So if you're able to make it back before 5, great. If not, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out, man. As always. All right. So let's take the Stone Ogre and say, okay, so he's challenged -2. That's cool. So he's already fairly powerful. But we want our monsters to be able to do more, right? So we want to give them some tricks. We want to give them things they can do. So, what kind of tricks do we want monsters to have? Maybe we have something also along the lines of like sample tricks. Sample tricks. Because I'm thinking the trick for the Stone Ogre is that he's boulder throwing. And you go tricks, boulder thrower. And that basically makes it so that action rolls made during combat against a Stone Ogre suffer a -1 dice penalty due to distraction as the ogre constantly lobs stones and boulders at the expedition. Oh, can I wait? Okay, so I guess the admonition doesn't let me nest, which is a shame. Which, understandable. So boulder thrower. Let's just kind of do this and let that. That's a little, and maybe kind of like. No. Let's see. There we go. Boulder thrower. Now, if we wanted to have more, then we could have more. But this is a challenging enemy. Stone Ogre. He's a challenge. So he's going to be challenged 2 then, instead of -2. He's going to be challenged 2. So you reduce that many dice. And then during combat, he is more challenging because he imposes a -1 die on all action rolls during combat because he's just lobbing stones and boulders all the time. So you have to dodge those, which makes your rolls more difficult. We could even add, if we want to make him even more powerful, failed action rolls during combat against the ogre incur 1 injury. Discord. So I want to make it, let's see, how can I word this? I want to make it so that if you would not have taken damage during a fail, you still take 1 damage because of Boulder Thrower, but if you took damage, then you don't take additional damage. Failed action rolls during combat against the ogre that would not normally incur an injury. Still, no, I don't like the wording on that. How can I put it? If an action roll is fails during combat against the ogre, and it would not normally incur an injury, roll 1d6. On a 1, the character suffers 1 injury discord as they are struck by a flying rock thrown by the ogre. There we go. Spooky, scary, stone ogre, powerful enemy. I like it. It's got an example of what we need. And then other example tricks. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to see, right? Stuff that, like, during combat against this creature, this happens. So maybe do something like sample tricks. Let's do fire barrier. And then fire barrier, what's that do? Glad you asked. Fire barrier, the enemy creates 1d6 fire barriers. Each of these barriers counts as a challenge 1 enemy for purposes of the combat roll. Barriers can be destroyed via an action roll. Failing on this roll inflicts 1 injury discord from fire damage. Or yeah, sure, and we can do something like optional or power up or something along those lines, like a more powerful trick. Characters suffering an injury from a fire barrier should make a action roll to resist or suffer the burned discord, which, you know, is going to be something like this. In fact, we can actually even do it Yeah, let's do it here. Bop, bop, bop. Add Discord. And then it's going to be Discord burned. And then we'll go, what's this over here? Okay. We'll do effect and resolution, right? And then effect is going to be -1 dice on physical action rolls until resolved. Additionally, when taking an injury, roll 1d6 on a roll of 1. Take 2 injuries instead. Resolution: burns heal naturally with a week of rest outside of a delve or overnight, or a full night's rest within a delve. Certain nomina or items that nomina, items or abilities that can heal injuries can also be used to heal burn. There we go. So I think that's a good workaround. All right, so we've defined what enemies look like and what they can do. Oh hell yeah, Nuke Top 5, another video? 2 videos this week? Holy shit. Wait, I gotta give me a second, folks. Okay, so y'all look, I've never spoken about this before on stream. I don't particularly believe in anything, including ghosts. That said, I'm terrified of them, despite not believing on them. It is one of my little like pet spooks. Like, I love watching ghost hunting videos, even though I know they're fake. Like, half the fun of watching them is seeing, like, okay, that's just the wind, that's fake. Or sometimes you see something, you're like, holy shit, how did they fake that? not it's like, oh, that is a ghost. Like, oh wow, how did they fake that, right? But I love it. I love it. It's a sound. Yeah, I want to watch people freak out too, and also like I get a little thrill out of it. You know, it's the same reason you watch horror movies if you're a horror fan, and I am. And so my favorite ghost hunting video kind of aggregator guy is this guy called Nuke, Nuke's Top 5, and for a while he was like super regular, like at least every week there was like a new compilation video of ghosts and hauntings and whatnot. And then he kind of like got like maybe once a month. He got slowed down. I was kind of worried about the guy, but then he made one earlier this week, and I just got an alert for a second one. I'm excited. Oh, I'm excited. I love watching those with the guys on the weekends. It'd be kind of cool to do someday. Once I start doing more streams, that would be kind of fun to maybe do a react, to like, bring up one of those videos and just kind of like watch it with folks. That could be fun. Anyway, yep, I confirmed 10 scary videos to give you nightmares. All right, cool. Excited for that. Hi, cat. Who let you back in? Right. Yeah, I know how it is. I know how it is. You got let back in because you want out, and then I let you out, and then you're like, oh, but I want in. Anyway, let's see. So okay, so cool. So we got the burn Discord. Wait, let me move this a bit. There we go. It was supposed to be like this actually. No, like wait. We kind of go here and there, and then kind of like make this window a little smaller. No, there we go. Okay, beautiful. Now it fits the way it wants. Now it fits the way it's supposed to be. Hi. Must you? Must you? Come on, come on, get over here. Jesus Christ, cat. Oh, love you. I love you. Well, yes. How about you just lay down for a little while, huh? How about you just lay down? No, not on the table. I'm using the table. All right. So, all right, I still need to flesh this out, right? But we've got enemies. We know what they do. We've got their tricks. We've got their challenge rating. We figured out we don't need to use negative numbers anymore. So 1d6, add additional 1d6 for each character taking part in combat. Add up the challenge ratings for all enemies in combat and subtract them many dice from the combat roll. This counter reduce the pool to less than 1 die. Okay, so at this point, this initial pool of dice will be your combat pool. The expedition may choose to roll the combat pool at any point during combat to resolve it. If the roll is successful, then the expedition has succeeded in their goal, and if they fail, then the guide describes the consequences. That's kind of it in a nutshell, right? And then we'll do okay, so characters may actually no. Connection pool dice may not be risked in a combat roll. Instead, characters can add dice to the combat pool by making action rolls during combat. Each player should describe what their character is doing to increase the expedition's chances of being victorious in the combat, and then make an appropriate action roll. If the roll is a success, apply the effects of that roll to the character and or enemies, and then add 1 dice to the combat pool. If the action roll has multiple hits, more than a single 1 on the dice, add an additional dice to the combat pool for each hit after the first. When the expedition members all agree, one of them may roll the combat pool and the results, and yeah, and determine the results of the conflict as follows. And here we're going to copy a little bit of the, that was weird, I thought I heard something. Here we're going to copy a little bit of the system here. Playing the game, here we go, action roll. We're going to steal a little bit of this. Action resolution failure. I kind of copy all this and paste it here. And then while I edit this to match the combat wording, I'm going to start in on that. I'm going to go ahead and banish you all to the ad zone. So hang on for a minute and a half and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Okay, folks. So I'm already changing things. So let's see. So when the expedition members all agree, one of them may roll the combat pool and determine the results of the conflict as follows. If even a single die rolls 1, the expedition is considered victorious, not victorious. The expedition may then choose one of two options. They may write the results of their action, or they can discover the results. So normally, discovering gives up narrative control to the guide and gives the player one extra die on their connection pool, plus they get back whatever they risked. In this case, there is no risking. So what I'm thinking of doing is that discovering will let each member of the expedition choose one of two things. They may either choose to gain a point of connection to add to their pool, or they may choose to resolve one injury that they've suffered, just one injury. I don't care if it's suffered in this battle. Like, you're better, like you heal by one point. I think that's a decent reward for discover, right? Like, because write will give you full narrative control, which is fine. So I'm going to give you a physical reward, not physical, an actual like point reward, a mechanical reward here, whether a point of connection or recovering or resolving an injury. there's a price to be paid, and it is, yes, loss of narrative control. Hmm. But we'll make it a yes, but we'll make it a yes, but like you get either connection die or you heal an injury, and you are victorious, so you achieve your overall goal. But something happens, something extra. There are more enemies. Somebody in the enemy group escaped. There is an additional complication. Um, the point is, it should not cancel out, right? Your party should still be victorious, but there's going to be a complication. Maybe they're low on resources. An NPC got hurt. Um, because part of this whole thing originally is that I do want combat to feel consequential. Players, that there should be a cost to having to fight. Like, I generally don't want players in this game specifically, right? I don't want them to walk into a fight and then just end up just rolling over the enemy and coming out the other side with not a single scratch and whatnot. Like, I mean, yes, that's a thing that happens, right? But specifically for this game, I don't want combat to be the easy choice. I want even characters who are very combat capable, who might be able to go into a fight and with their set of abilities and stuff, they know they can build up an 8, 9, 10 dice pool for combat easy, right? And you would think, oh, well, okay, so these guys are obviously going to be real powerful. They're just going to roll over everything, which, mechanically, yes. But that's why I want there to be some kind of speed bump. That's why I want there to be something that would make an expedition, the players go, yes, we could just roll through this entire delve, just killing everyone we meet, but that's going to bite us in the ass. It's going to hurt us. That's actually going to make this harder. So I'm gonna have to think of some ideas for that. And I'm hmm. So here's an idea. I don't know if anybody's still in chat, but please shout out if you hear this and it sparks anything in you. I'm just spitballing here right now, but we already have this combat mechanic, right? We have this combat mechanic that reduces combat to, thank you, Struggle Buzz. I appreciate you letting me know. Cookie, exactly. Oh, by the way, wait. Distraction. Did I ever show you guys? Wait, do I have, where are they? Sidetracking, I know. Oh, come on, where are they? Why are they never where I want them to be when I need them in short? Okay, here we go. Here's a few. Oh yeah, here's a bunch of them actually. Really should stick these somewhere. Here, this was for you. This was for you, Arbalist. Let's see if we can get them to focus. Well, the autofocus. Give me a second. Let me do this, and then let me kind of tell NVIDIA Broadcast to kind of just chill there. There we go. Look at that. Those are little frogs. All little frogs. Who does not love a whole bunch of stickers of just different cookies? Our little beautiful cookies, which I need to get all over. I need to stick all over my place. There they are. All right. Wait. Let me turn the blur back on so you do not witness. I mean, to be fair, I'm using a DSLR for my webcam, so even without the NVIDIA blur, there's still that nice little natural bokeh. But also, like, I do not want y'all perceiving my room too much. So there we go. Leave it at that. All right. Anyway, cookies, I have them. Look, here's my idea for a penalty for combat. Um, because at the same time, like I don't want to be too mean. Like I want to discourage reckless combat, right? I want to discourage combat being the first choice, but I don't want it to be that combat just, like you never do it. So it should be some kind of penalty, but I don't want it to be like game destroying either. And there's already like stuff like injuries and maybe enemy tricks that might have like left you more haggard. So I don't want to like, because one idea that I originally had was that if you go into combat, you come out the other side with at least one injury, no matter what, right? That was my initial instinct. No matter what, you're gonna come out with an injury, minimum, no matter what. Um, it's okay. That's okay, I guess. But I think I want to make it a little bit more mystical is not the word, but tied into the mythology and the way the delves are. So, taking a step back, when an expedition of seekers goes to a delve, they are going to what are called discordant delves. These are magical places that are unbalanced, they have a discord at their heart, and that discord is causing the causing the delve to be unbalanced and to have bad effects on its surroundings, causing creatures inside to be aggressive, etc., etc., etc. The point is, an expedition of seekers goes to delves. You're not adventurers looking for treasure, right? You are effectively kind of like wildlife biologists and conservationists, right? You're going to these delves to try and figure out what's wrong with each one and resolve that discord. So I'm thinking, in combat, anytime that you engage in combat inside a delve, win or lose, victorious or not, it should. So there's going to have to be some kind of mechanic for actually resolving a delve, right? And part of that is because you're going to have folks like these seekers, the callings here, folks like divers especially, that are going to be able to sort of like have a connection. They're going to be critical in actually solving and resolving those discords within a delve. So we're going to have to come up with some mechanical system, and I think it's going to be a process. It's going to be like, once you go into a delve, there will be goals that you will have, right? You will need to understand the delve. You will need to sort of investigate and research, sort of, or like study the delve while you're there to determine the cause of its discord, and then you will need to somehow confront and then resolve that discord that is affecting the delve. So there will be a certain number of roles and specific defined systems for that. So I'm thinking that the violence of combat makes that harder. So the more fights you have gone into during a delve, the harder it will be to resolve that discord. And there may be times when you have no choice but to fight, and it still has a deleterious effect, but you had no choice. But at the same time, it should make it, and then that's going to be on the GM, on the guide, to design their adventures as well in such a way, or the delves rather, in such a way that combat is not required most of the time. You should be able, like, you want to give your characters and your players opportunities to resolve issues without going into fights, because while fighting is an option, and having like maybe one fight per session is not the worst, then every fight that you do get into does make it harder, right? Maybe adds subtracts a die from whatever roles we come up with for actually resolving that discord and delve. And that way there is a tangible effect that you want to avoid. Because the whole point of coming here is to resolve that discord. So anything that makes that harder to do is not in your best interest for the most part, right? So there is a built-in discouragement towards just being a murder hobo and killing everyone you meet. But at the same time, it's not a crazy punishment where it's just like, we got into a small scrape with a couple of like cave rats and now everybody's half dead. Because, while moments like that do happen sometimes due to bad rolls, it's not necessarily like maybe, like that was not a hard combat. You won it very easily. I don't necessarily want everybody to come out of that bleeding. Like, I want to discourage combat, but I don't want to make it that ridiculous. So, chat, tell me, does that sound reasonable? That anytime there is combat, win or lose, one of the things that happens is that it does effectively worsen the discord within the delve. Like that, it causes dissonance. It causes, it makes it harder to solve the core problem. Like that, and that way that makes it so that combat is rarely, if ever, an actual critical part of resolving the problem, because at all times trying to resolve this with violence is always going to lead to the actual resolution being more difficult, being harder. So violence is, as a general rule, never the best answer. Sometimes it can be the only answer, in which case you're just going to have a hard time resolving this discord, right? But I think that works. I think that works to like make it so that violence is not going to be option number one, because in effect, it does make your actual end goal within the delve more difficult to achieve. Does that sound reasonable? I think, folks, chat, let me know. Am I completely off base here? But I think that's what I kind of want to do here. And that just means rewriting this so it reflects that, which can do. Yeah. Yeah, I think need to think on it a bit, right? Yeah, I think this might be kind of where we're also like just a few minutes away from the end. We're like 10 minutes away from the end of the stream, I think. So this might be a good time to kind of like start winding it down. I think we're getting to the point where I need to give this a little thought. Especially since I think, like, we keep running into moments where it's like, okay, for this to make more sense, it requires a separate system to kick in over here. And that's part of what we're seeing with this, right? We're seeing that in order for this combat, quote unquote, penalty to take effect, we need to define the thing that it's affecting. The thing that it's affecting in this first draft here is, or second draft, I guess at this point, is your difficulty in the final resolution of the delve. It feels right, but I think I need to let it digest a little bit before that. But yeah, if you have questions, if it doesn't make sense, let me know. If you have any questions, or if anything specifically, like if there's any specific things that are bugging you about it. Because there's something bugging me about it, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And I think it's because I haven't defined that delve discord resolution mechanic yet. So maybe that's it. Maybe I just need to, next Friday, since we're wrapping up for this one, but maybe next Friday I can take some time to go, okay, so you went to the delve to do X. What's the system for X? And then that system, once we have that, then we can come back here and go like, okay, cool. So basically, anytime there's combat, it affects X in this way. And that is part of why you don't want too much combat. That feels okay. That feels reasonable. Maybe. Overall, I don't like. I think like, I mean, yeah. Of course, I don't hate it because I just made it, and it's I've been thinking about it all week. Um, I don't think this is the worst. I should probably make a little flowchart like I did for the like I did here. You know, for where'd you go? Here we go. This. I should do like a little combat flowchart. Maybe I can have that done by next week, so we can visualize this a little better. All right, all right, all right. I think I like where we ended up. I think I like where we ended up. We got something done. We're not too shabby, actually. Like, we rewrote a whole bunch. We added this whole combat role thing. This needs to be cleaned up. We created the very concept of enemies within the game. We created enemy cards. We created tricks that enemies can do. We have some sample tricks. We created an extra kind of new damage that we have here. That's all good. None of that existed before today. So that's pretty solid. I like overall what I'm doing with combat here, I think. Like, it still just comes down to one roll. It's in player's control when they want to make that roll. They can combat can the thing about this is that before with the volleys it was always going to be, no matter what, combat is always going to be 3 rounds. Which for some combats just doesn't make sense, right? And for other, like, it doesn't make sense for all kinds of combats. So some stuff should last longer, some stuff should last shorter. And while it is like, okay, yeah, we're fully abstracting, we're going fully cinematic with it. You're just describing the moments that matter, so that's why there's 3 of them, whatever. This lets you have that variable. Like, if you want to have a long, protracted, epic combat, if the players want that rather, they can have it. But if they really just want to have like 1 or 2 quick hard actions and then, you know, like go, then they can also do that, right? They can choose, and it just depends on how much risk they're willing to take on and how well their action rolls go. Seems flexible. There's room for it's still vague enough that there's a lot of room for both player and GM interpretation. And of course, here in Discover and Write, we're going to need to add some notes on specifically what happens to enemies that are defeated. I guess primarily it's going to be player choice whether the enemies are, you know, killed or defeated, with potentially some enemies having a trick where they cannot be killed, can only be defeated temporarily, or that sort of thing for really powerful enemies. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not too shabby. Well, I mean, of course, we'll require some playtesting, right? We'll require some playtesting. We have 1 enemy. We can whip up, not today. We're running out of time today. Got less than 5 minutes left in the stream. But yeah, that's also something we can try to see how well it runs, actually doing sort of like a test combat. Get like a group of 3 or 4. Well, the thing is, we don't have enough. We can't really, because we don't have enough defined. We don't have enough defined seeker callings yet. You know, we literally only have properly defined a bulwark, conflux, and most of a crafter. I mean, I guess that's 3 characters, right? We could build 1 of each more or less and try and run through an entire combat. It's going to feel really slow because we're explaining as we go and figuring it out. A better test is how quickly we can go once we know the system. I am worried. I am worried about complexity. I am worried about... That's part of why I want combat to be a single roll as much as possible. Because I am worried about this becoming a slog. I don't want a round by round, just I punch you, you punch me, I punch you, you punch me, and we keep going till one of us falls down, right? But this sounds like a combat in which every single player gets to make at least one roll, one sort of action roll, and all of that feeds into the combat roll. And then players can choose. That was it. That was one round. Are we ready to resolve this, or do we want to keep going? Right? Because another thing then that I want is, when do we do injuries, right? So is it enemies? Is it specifically if you make an action roll here? So basically, I mean, this is part of what I'm going to define, right? I'm going to discover right and failure specifically for combat rolls. So this needs to be fleshed out. And I think part of failure is going to be that everybody involved takes one injury. But that's the combat roll. That's the full combat roll. But the action rolls that you're doing during combat, should there be an additional rule about these action rolls, right? About these combat action rolls, where the penalty for failure, in addition to just failing the action, is taking an injury because it's happening during combat. I think that's worth a shot, yeah. And then some enemies may have a trick where they inflict an injury even on successful actions. For example, that's really powerful enemies. Stuff like that, right? All of that sounds reasonable. Yeah, yeah. You know what? I like where we're at. I like where we're at, and we have this. Technically the stream is recorded, so I can later go back and consult. But I think we've got a pretty solid thing. We've got a solid base. Again, we need to give it a little bit of thought. I welcome any kind of feedback that anyone has. Anything that seems entirely out of place, that you're not grokking with, that you're not clicking with, that you have doubts on. I'm more than open to any suggestions and questions. Of course, not in today's stream because we're about to end. We're about to start. In fact, I'm going to take us back out to the one with just my giant face, because it is 4:58, or it's 2 minutes before 5, and it is time for us to wrap up. So on that, it's time to give my end of stream spiels for anybody who's been around. We've had a couple of new people in today, which I sincerely appreciate. Those of you who came in and this is your first time in the stream, if you are still here, I sincerely appreciate you. If you just came in, checked out for a little while and then left, that's fine as well. I honestly am amazed every day that there are even just a few people here that are just hanging out pretty much daily, and you folks keep my heart beating. I appreciate it. So thank you so much. For anyone else who hasn't seen me before, if you found me through my socials, and you probably don't need them to be pointed out, but there they are anyway for you. Please follow me on those to know when I will be streaming next. I do have a regular schedule from 2 to 5, Tuesdays to Fridays. There will be more streams added. And in fact, tonight I may be back streaming some more Rogue Trader around 8 p.m. Don't hold your breath, but if I've got the energy. Last night we played for about 2 hours, and by the end I was just like kind of falling asleep. So depends on how much energy I have tonight, but I would like to play some more Rogue Trader. I feel like we barely got started. 2 hours is barely enough time to do much in that game. But again, thanks so much for hanging out today. I will be back at the, if not tonight, then definitely by next Tuesday, at which point we'll go back to yelling about Exalted Essence. We made a character last time, and I want to see what else remains in the book that we want to take a look at. But I think we're getting close to just about kind of wrapping up with Exalted Essence. I did like the character we have, though, and I'm curious to see if there's anything else in the book that we really want to just kind of dive into before we call it a day with Exalted Essence. That said, been very pleased with that one. So folks, again, thanks so much for hanging out. I will see you at the latest next Tuesday. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful evening, night, weekend, whatever it is. Enjoy your weekend as well, wherever you may be, and see you again very soon. Bye.